Alright, so out here working on Godzilla again. I have to convert it to a return style fuel system. So I picked up a Red Horse regulator. It's -6. You can do -6, -8, whatever you want, just for reference for future for people. -6 stuff can do like 800 horse flywheel. So figure 650, 700 wheel, no problem. Even around 800, I don't even think you'll have a problem, but some tuners may want more. But so I'm going to do 6 feed, 6 return. Once I do the blower, I'll probably do 8 feed and just leave the 6 return, because the 6 return is plenty. But I'm going to use the factory hard line, which I have my connection there, and I'm just going to unhook it from the rails, come over to the regulator here. It'll feed this side and then out back to the fuel rails, and then the return will go out the bottom, and I'll be on my way. So I used 2 carbide drill bits because the first one broke, because it wouldn't be an install without something breaking. And I put the regulator bracket right here. Just 2 self-tappers into the strut tower. You could probably see them through there if you really cared to look, but nothing I'm worried about. The tire, a shock, a brake line, there's nothing, excuse me, really passing through there, so nothing you really have to worry about as far as that goes. So I'm just gonna half-ass document this stuff for you guys so you can learn how to do one yourself without having to buy an expensive kit. So here's my Red Horse regulator. Again, it's -6. They come bare, so you need to buy these -6 ORB to either -6 or -8, depending on the size of your line, to go into the side of the regulator. You do not use thread lock or thread tape on that side. They're O-ring based, which is what ORB stands for. So you just tighten them. I bought this pressure gauge off Amazon. It was 10 bucks. It's made by Meanlin. You want to make sure it at least does 60 psi. This one does 100, which is perfect. So that's really all you want. This vacuum reference right here, you will leave open to atmosphere, meaning don't hook anything up to it. The only time you need to hook that to something is if it's boosted. The tuners usually ask for a boost reference for that, so that's your deal. I have a 45 on the bottom, a 90 up top, and I'm just going to run a straight out of this side, but I'll just show you what it's going to look like. There's these 2 screw holes on the bottom here, which goes to your bracket. So regulator sits there like so, and that's it. I understand it's a little difficult to see the pressure gauge. This is one of those set it once with the key on, not running. You'll never have to touch it again unless you're diagnosing some kind of fuel issue, but I don't plan to have any of those. I have a Division X fuel hat coming from a customer, acquaintance, friend. He gave me a good deal on it. I appreciated it. Has 2 485 liter per hour pumps, and it is 8 feed, 6 return. So I'm just going to run a 8 to 6 adapter or reducer to step it down, just to power this thing NA, to get me going. Basically, that's it. So I'm just going to tighten up these ORB fittings on the regulator itself. I'm going to remove my 45, remove my 90 here so I can get it mounted. Here's the 2 little Allen screws with the washer. You need an Allen key, obviously, to install it. So I'm going to pop that on. I'll remove these and we'll go from there. Alright, so that's it with the regulator mounted in its final resting place here. Again, 2 little Phillips head self-tappers. I pre-drilled the holes. The most tedious part was tightening up the regulator to the bracket, because it's just a little bit of a tight squeeze. You can run a 90 off of here or a 180. The 180 swoops right underneath this little gap here for the fuel pressure gauge there, and that works out nice as well. And you could just feed it right in between the brake lines, or it goes lower than that, whatever you want to do. There's a hole in the frame there. You could run the fuel lines down and out, and it's nice and clean. So I'm just going to have a straight shot from this side of the regulator right to the fuel rail, and then my feed is going to come around and swoop in here, which that part might not be the cleanest, but that's just for right now with this setup. Once I go coyote and blower and all that crap, it'll be a lot cleaner and easier. But that's where I wanted it, just so you don't really see it. It's out of the way. I think it looks nice there. You know, pay attention to this too. Make sure this is not too tall over your tower where it could hit your hood or do something stupid like that, or you hear a vibration. In the past, we've mounted them to the firewall there. Sometimes it needs Dynamat or something like that, because you will hear the regulator clicking or ticking, and it could drive somebody nuts. So that's that. So we'll just keep on plugging. I'll show you what to do at the fuel hat and when I run my fuel lines. Alright, so just as a little part 2 here. The fuel hat I bought online, the guy was again nice enough to give me all his hoses and lines, which was 8 feed, 6 return. So since he supplied that all with me, it already has all the ends on it. Makes my life very easy. I'm going to take the 2 6 feeds out of the regulator and change these to these. These are -6 ORB to -8 AN. So you want 2 of these to go out of the regulator. I did buy a a 90 ORB fitting, but it's honestly just not going to work. You have to take the regulator off to twist it back on, but the bend is not extreme enough for it to work properly. So I'm just going to remove these, drop them into the abyss, which the abyss is actually a hole in the frame. So I will save these for future use, because it's always a good idea to have this kind of stuff on hand. You never know when you're going to get jammed up or something. So again, remove both sides. It's going to have a 6 return, so my 6 straight down at the bottom there is totally fine. So, all right, so I have all the lines out. Again, he labeled them for me, which was very nice. Some of the stuff I'm not able to use, but essentially this is going to be your feed from the regulator to your rails. So you need 1 line for that. And then here's your return. So again, it's really ideal to use a 90 out of the bottom of your regulator. And then this will go all the way to the back or to the fuel tank of your car to your return. On these, everything's on the driver's side behind the back seat. He did have a flex fuel sensor in here, it looks like, as he labeled it. So normally this -690 coming out of the bottom of the regulator, that would be a longer stretch of hose, and that would run directly to the fuel hat. In this instance, I still might run my own complete hose, but I also might be a cheapie and not finish what I started in the garage there, and I think I might get a male-to-male union. So it's basically just like a little adapter fitting. It's male on AN on this side, male 6 AN on this side, and then you just would, it's just a jumper connector for those two. So again, I'm going to run the 690 out of the bottom. I'm going to go underneath the brake booster there, run it alongside the frame rail of the car. And then for install of this, I will take the back seat out for you guys, or I'll take this seat out, and then I got to pull the back seat out, which I have all this stuff in here. So let me work on cleaning that stuff up, I guess, and then we'll go from there. But same thing would go for the feed. So I'm going to show you how to just drill and tap the factory hat to make it a return, put a bulkhead fitting in it, just so it's easy for most of you guys if you just buy a single replacement pump, because that's really all you need is a single jingle to power any swap motor, unless you plan to boost it. So when you boost it, here's this hat that I bought. Again, I'm using the word budget here. This is a Division X. This is what Lethal Performance sells. They're not a bad piece. I wouldn't say they're as good as 4. No offense, Jared. But they are nice. They work well. Here's your return dump valve there. Here's twin pumps. It has room for a 3rd pump. You do have to run their controller from Lethal Performance, or I recommend the 4 FC2 or FC3 if you plan to run 3 pumps. So here's my return port fitting, which will be my -6, and there's my 8 feed. So once you sit this in the tank like so, you hook up your fuel level sender, blah blah blah, you run your return, you run your feed, again driver's side frame rail of the car up through the hole, bam, there you go, all done. So straightforward. But again, I sent him $265 for this because PayPal fees. Again, don't be dicking your sellers over a couple bucks, you know, help them out. And then he sent me all this line for free, which is awesome. This is, you know, a couple $100 in fuel line. It's useless to him if he's not using it anymore. It's useless to everybody, but it's great to have, nice to have. I have $60, $70 in the regulator with the gauge. I have like 15, 20 bucks in a couple fittings. So, I mean, literally for, you know, $400, I have a return style fuel system for my car that can, you know, roughly hold 1,000 horse with these twin 485s in here. I'm going to feed this line down through this hole, as I stated before. Yeah, get in my belly. It's a lot more difficult to run these hoses with the fittings or line ends on them because, well, it just is, because they're bigger. It's easy to just slip the hose through with the fittings on it. It's a little bit of a pain in the ace. I gotta remove that evap hose, which is that one right there, and that'll give me some clearance. I'm really gonna pull the evap lines out of this car. You know what? Sorry for the half-ass video again. I'm gonna pull all this shit out of this car. You guys probably don't need to see that. It's a very simple, straightforward process. Here's my evap hose. I got it all tangled up. I'm just gonna pull that off, remove the hard lines. Easy to cut it with like a die grinder, metal snips, and then once you pull that shit off, that'll give you more clearance. So I'll make a better detailed video of that when the weather's not crappy.